Abraham blessed by Melchizedek. After this, Abraham meets up with the king of Sodom and the king of Salem, Melchizedek, with bread and wine. Melchizedek was a priest of God Most High and blesses Abraham. Abraham gave him 10% of everything. Sodom wants the people and offered Abraham the goods. Abraham refuses, saying, "Lest you should say, I have made Abraham rich." God's covenant with Abraham. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision. "Fear not, Abraham, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great." Then Abraham goes on about not having a child, and God says, "Don't worry, you will." And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. The Lord goes on to tell Abraham his offspring will be sojourners in a land not theirs, and will be servants and afflicted for 400 years, but will bring judgment on the nations that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. Sarah and Hagar. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children. She had a female Egyptian servant who was named Hagar. So Sarah tells Abraham to go have a baby with Hagar, and she will obtain child by her. Abraham goes along with it, and Sarai says, "Have her as a wife." Hagar conceives and looks at Sarah with contempt. Sarah becomes jealous and outraged and gets mad at Abraham. Abraham says, she's your servant. Do with her as you please." Sarah deals harshly with Hagar. Hagar runs away. An angel of the Lord finds Hagar and tells her to return, and the baby's name will be Ishmael. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen. Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael. Abraham and the covenant of circumcision. God appeared to Abraham at the age of 99 years old. God changes Abraham's name to Abraham and makes a covenant with him and introduces circumcision as part of that covenant. "You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised." Isaac's birth promise. God changes Sarai's name to Sarah. God says Sarah will bear him a child named Isaac, and God's covenant will be with Isaac, not Ishmael. So that very day, Ishmael, who's 13 years old, and Abraham's servant and all his house got circumcised. The Lord appeared to Abraham with 3 men who are on their way to Sodom and Gomorrah to see how bad their sin is, to see if it needs to be destroyed. Abraham intercedes for Sodom. Abraham says to God, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous people." God says, if I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Abraham says, "What about 45? God says, if 45, he will spare the city. Abraham says, "What about 40? God says, if 40, he will spare the city." Again, Abraham says, "What about 30? God says, same thing. Abraham says, "What about 20? God says the same thing. Abraham says, "What about 10? God says the same thing." And the Lord went his way. When he had finished speaking to Abraham, Abraham returned to his place. God rescues Lot. The 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening. Lot sees them and brings them to his home. The townspeople surrounded Lot's house and want to abuse the 2 angels. The angels blind the townspeople. Then the angels tell Lot to get his family out of Sodom because they are going to destroy it. Lot's son-in-law didn't listen. Angels say, "Don't look back or stop." And Lot, his wife, 2 daughters are taken out and go to the city of Zoar. God destroys Sodom. God rains sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot's wife looks back and becomes a pillar of salt. Everything is completely destroyed. Lot and his daughters. Lot lives in a cave with his 2 daughters. The daughters get Lot drunk with wine and lay with him. Lot didn't know about this because he was drunk with wine. The first daughter has a baby named Moab, who is the father of the Moabites. And the second baby's name is Benami, who is the father of the Ammonites. Keep in mind the significance of where the Moabites and the Ammonites came from. Abraham and Abimelech. From there, Abraham journeyed toward the territory of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. Abraham tells Sarah to do the same thing they did in Egypt, telling King Abimelech that Sarah is his sister. Abimelech tries to take Sarah as his wife until God warns him in his dreams he's a dead man if he touches Sarah, because Sarah is the prophet's wife. So Abimelech says, "Why did you lie to me?" To Abraham, turns out Sarah is Abraham's half-sister. They have the same father, but they have different mothers. Birth of Isaac. Sarah bore Abraham a son, Abraham being 100 years old, and the baby's name is Isaac. God protects Hagar and Ishmael. On that day that Isaac was weaned, Abraham made a great feast. Ishmael laughed in mockery about the event. So Sarah went to cast Ishmael and Hagar out from living with them. And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, "Be not displeased because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For though Isaac shall your offspring be named, and I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring." So the two are casted out and live in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. A treaty with Abimelech. Abraham tells Abimelech about a well of water and that Abimelech's servants have seized. Abimelech says he didn't realize they did that. They make a covenant, therefore that place is called Beersheba. Sacrifice of Isaac. God tests Abraham, telling him to sacrifice Isaac. Abraham passes the test, and just before Abraham's about to slaughter Isaac, angel of the Lord stops him from doing it. Abraham did say to the two young men that he went with, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you," indicating Abraham had faith that God would raise Isaac from the dead, since God has promised he was using Isaac to make a great nation. After this, they go back to live at Beersheba, and we find out a very important chronology. Abraham's brother Nahor has kids, one of which was Bethuel. Bethuel goes on to father Rebekah, and of course Rebekah is Jacob's wife. Sarah's death and burial. Abraham buys property from the Hittites. The property he bought was a burying place. So the field of Ephron in Machpelah, which was east of Mamre, the field with the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field. Abraham buries Sarah in the cave. Isaac and Rebekah. Abraham gets his oldest servant to swear to him to go find a wife for Isaac. Oh, I was wrong about Rebekah being Jacob's wife. Sorry. Okay. Oops. Anyways, only a minute left. Okay. Abraham gets his oldest servant to swear to him to go find a wife for Isaac for his country, from his kindred. He is not to marry a Kenite. So his servant goes and asks the Lord to give him a sign as to which woman ends up being Rebekah, which is Abraham's brother's daughter. The servant brings Rebekah back, meets Isaac in the field, and he takes her as his wife. So obviously, Isaac and Rebekah get married. I said Jacob, I was wrong.